In the heart of the South China Sea lies Huangyan Island, known internationally as Scarborough Shoal, a ring of reefs and rocks that has become one of Asia's most dangerous and hotly contested flashpoints. This seemingly remote and uninhabited atoll with its turquoise waters and jagged coral is far more than just a speck on the map. It's a symbol of national pride, a source of livelihood, and a potential trigger for international conflict. Though no one lives here, nations are willing to risk confrontation and even military standoffs to assert their claims. Patrol boats from rival countries circle the shoal, their presence a constant reminder of the high stakes involved. The island's value comes from its strategic location and abundant resources. Just 124 nautical miles from the Philippines but over 500 from China, its proximity to key nations fuels the dispute. Whoever controls Huangyan Island holds a gateway to the heart of Southeast Asia. For generations of Filipinos, these waters have been a vital fishing ground, providing food and income for countless coastal communities. The lagoon's rich marine life sustains families and traditions. For China, the shoal is more than a fishing spot. It's a key to dominating one of the world's busiest and most important global trade routes. Every year, trillions of dollars in goods pass through these waters, making control over the area a matter of national interest. The surrounding waters teem with fish, supporting not just local fishermen, but also the broader economies of neighboring countries. The shoal's ecosystem is a treasure trove of marine biodiversity. Beneath the waves, the seabed may hide vast reserves of oil and natural gas, making control over the shoal a matter of economic survival and future energy security for both China and the Philippines. Militarily, a Chinese outpost here would extend Beijing's reach deep into Southeast Asia, threatening Philippine security and directly challenging the influence of the United States and its allies in the region. That's why this tiny, windswept shoal commands the attention of leaders from Manila to Washington, and why the world watches closely, knowing that what happens here could shape the future of the entire region. Tensions erupted in September 2025 when the Philippines sent a fleet near the shoal, calling it a routine patrol. China saw this as a direct challenge, responding with warnings and aggressive maneuvers. The standoff escalated when a Philippine vessel allegedly rammed a Chinese ship, prompting China's Coast Guard to block and blast the fleet with water cannons. China's spokesperson insisted their actions were justified, blaming the Philippines for the incident. Beijing's foreign ministry issued a stern warning demanding Manila stop provocations and hinting at U.S. involvement. The message was clear: China will defend its claim by force if necessary. The world watched as the risk of open conflict loomed. China's claim to Huangyan Island is rooted in history and national pride. Beijing cites ancient maps and records insisting the shoal is inherent territory and a symbol of sovereignty. Since 2012, China's Coast Guard has maintained a constant presence, blocking Filipino fishermen and enforcing control with water cannons and intimidation. China frames these actions as law enforcement, painting the Philippines as the aggressor. This narrative is fueled by a desire to restore China's status after a century of humiliation. Any outside interference, especially from the US, is seen as a direct threat. For Beijing, backing down is not an option. The shoal is both a strategic asset and a matter of national honor. The Philippines has responded to mounting tensions in the South China Sea by turning to international law, seeking legitimacy and support from the global community. At the heart of its argument is the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, which grants coastal states sovereign rights to waters and resources within 200 nautical miles of their shores, an area known as the Exclusive Economic Zone, or EEZ. Scarborough Shoal, a rich fishing ground, lies well within this zone, making the Philippines' claim clear under international law. In 2016, after years of legal preparation, an international tribunal in The Hague ruled overwhelmingly in Manila's favor, rejecting China's sweeping claims based on so-called historic rights. The decision was hailed as a landmark victory for the rule of law in maritime disputes. Yet China dismissed the ruling outright, refusing to recognize or comply with the tribunal's findings. Beijing insisted on its own interpretation of history and continued its activities in the disputed waters, leaving the Philippines with international law on its side but little practical power to enforce the decision. Filipino fishermen who depend on these waters for their livelihoods have found themselves caught in the middle of a geopolitical struggle. many still face harassment and intimidation from larger, better-equipped foreign vessels, making daily life at sea increasingly dangerous and uncertain. In response, Manila has shifted to a more assertive and proactive policy under President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., determined to defend the nation's rights and protect its citizens. The government now publicizes incidents of Chinese aggression, increases patrols in contested waters, and works to rally international support for its cause. Each patrol, each public statement is a clear message. The Philippines is determined not to cede any territory or back down in the face of pressure. Rear Admiral Trinidad, a key figure in the country's maritime defense, regularly affirms the Philippines' right to patrol its own waters, citing the tribunal's decision as a foundation for their actions and a symbol of their resolve. Each patrol is more than a routine operation. It is a statement of sovereignty, a demonstration that the Philippines will not abandon its claim or its people. Filipino sailors and Coast Guard officers remain vigilant, their determination unwavering as they navigate the tense waters near Scarborough Shoal. But despite these efforts, China's overwhelming presence and military might remain a daunting reality, casting a long shadow over the Philippines' fight for sovereignty and justice. The US-China rivalry is at the heart of the South China Sea dispute, shaping not only the region's security landscape, but also the global balance of power. As China asserts its expansive claims and builds up its military presence, the United States responds with a mix of diplomacy, deterrence, and military operations, determined to maintain its influence and uphold international norms. While Washington officially takes no position on the sovereignty of the disputed islands, it insists on the principle of freedom of navigation for all nations. The U.S. regularly conducts naval patrols and freedom of navigation operations to challenge what it sees as excessive Chinese maritime claims. Crucially, America is bound by a decades-old mutual defense treaty with the Philippines, a commitment that has become more significant as tensions rise. This alliance acts as a powerful deterrent, making it clear that any attack on Philippine forces could trigger a U.S. military response. The presence of American warships and aircraft in the region signals to Beijing that Washington is prepared to defend its allies and interests. Under President Marcos Jr., U.S.-Philippine security ties have grown even closer. The two countries have increased the number and scale of joint military exercises, and the U.S. now enjoys expanded access to Philippine bases, allowing for faster deployment and greater regional presence. America is not acting alone. Allies like Japan and Australia have joined U.S.-led exercises and patrols, sending their own warships to the region. This growing coalition signals a united front, aiming to deter Chinese coercion and uphold the rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific. From Beijing's perspective, these moves look like encirclement. Chinese officials accuse the U.S. of meddling in regional affairs, stoking tensions, and trying to contain China's rise. State media often portray the American presence as provocative and destabilizing. This cycle of action and reaction is dangerous. Chinese assertiveness prompts closer U.S.-Philippine cooperation, which in turn heightens Beijing's fears and leads to even more aggressive posturing at sea. With every standoff, the risk of miscalculation or accidental escalation grows. Even a minor incident could spiral out of control, drawing in more countries and raising the stakes for everyone involved. The world's two largest militaries now operate in close proximity, and the margin for error is razor thin. One misstep could ignite a conflict with global consequences. The September 2025 clash is just the latest in a decade of confrontations. In 2012, China seized control after a standoff, shutting out Filipino fishermen and devastating local livelihoods. Since then, Chinese Coast Guard and even Navy ships have routinely blocked, chased, and used water cannons against Philippine vessels. Each incident deepens mistrust and animosity. In May 2025, Chinese warships intercepted a Philippine corvette, marking a dangerous escalation. For the Philippines, these are acts of bullying. For China, their defense against foreign-backed intrusion. The shoal has become a symbol of a much larger struggle for control in the South China Sea. With every standoff, peaceful resolution slips further away. The ongoing dispute over Huangyan Island threatens peace in Southeast Asia. A single miscalculation, like a collision or accidental gunfire, could spiral into war, potentially drawing in the US and China. The economic stakes are massive. A third of global shipping passes through these waters. Conflict would disrupt trade, shatter supply chains, and send shockwaves worldwide. The standoff also undermines international law, as China's rejection of the 2016 ruling signals that might can trump right. This sets a dangerous precedent for other disputes globally. Only dialogue, diplomacy, and respect for law can reduce the risk. Until sovereignty is resolved, Huangyan Island remains a flashpoint, where a small shoal could ignite a global crisis.